Hello, and welcome to Worried About Nothing. Today we're going to talk about no more excuses, no more hiding behind lies, big or small. I'm Danielle.
And I'm Katya.
And I'm Kim.
And welcome to our show today. So, Kim, you picked this topic, so I'm putting you on the spot. I want to see where you're going to go with it, and then I'll see what I got to say.
So, Kim, you pick most of the topics, so we'll always put you on the we'll always put you on the spot.
Sometimes I feel like off the bat I'll have something that spurs in my mind, but for this one, I'm just I'm not sure what direction we're going to go in, so I'd like you to take the lead, and I'll see what that brings up in me.
Well, it just felt to me like the energy is really different now to what it was, even towards the end of last year, not just globally, but individually as well. And I guess the two are the same, so there's no differentiation. But I noticed over Christmas and New Year, because I was really sick and I was in bed with the flu for 2 weeks, and it gives you a lot of time, to kind of have things come up. And I was noticing that now it feels like a veil has been lifted, or something has shifted so massively that there's nowhere to hide. It's like there's a spotlight on everything. That whereas in the past, maybe little lies or little excuses, or even big lies or big excuses would spring to mind. And, sometimes you tell yourself the little lies and you're like, oh, well, it's only because, I'm too tired today. Or you find some rationalization for something to excuse your behavior or a thought or something like that. But it feels to me at the moment that there's none of that. So everything is so exposed. And I think it's being exposed globally, but just talking from a personal perspective, that when that little thought comes in, like, oh no, it's okay because I'm tired or whatever, then the truth just kind of shines through so much more brightly and goes, well, no, actually, it's not because you're tired, it's because you're being lazy, or you don't want to do it, or you're making excuses, or whatever it is. And it's like there's no place for lies anymore, even on the tiniest scale, which is very different. Towards the end of last year, everything felt very, very woolly. But now, because everything is being exposed, it is like a huge blanket of lies and deception has been taken off the world, taken off everybody. And I'm noticing it very strongly for myself, that I can't even lie to myself anymore. Even little things like, oh, I'll just buy that chocolate because I deserve it, because I'm tired today, or I worked hard. It's kind of, no, I'm going to buy that chocolate because I'm feeling very self-indulgent and I want some chocolate. It's a very small example, but it just feels, even interacting with others now I'm back at work, people are acting completely insane, some of them. And to me, it feels like it's because of this energy. They're so confused because there's nowhere to hide anymore. And the things that they might have said, I mean, in the UK, the British are very big on hiding behind a lot of layers of, politeness and etiquette and all this sort of stuff. So now that's all been stripped away. People are left feeling kind of naked, I think, feeling very vulnerable because there's nowhere to hide, because everything is seen. And some people are reacting very strangely. Some people are being lovely, and it's almost like, the heart shines forth even brighter in them because there's no surface shield or anything. But in some people, they're just either being very aggressive or just schizophrenic or very weird or very touchy, or they're blowing up at the slightest thing. It's like somebody came in the other day and I said, hi, can I help you? And they went, no, how dare you? And they got really offended. And it was nothing to do with what I'd said. They were just obviously, on the brink of whatever madness. But everything just feels very exposed. And even looking at the weather here in the UK, I don't know about where you guys live, but it's been very, very clear, very, very sharp. So like blue skies, really, really clear light. And it's almost like the sun is doing that as well. There's nowhere to hide from the sun, because when it's out, it just illuminates everything. So that's just what I feel anyway, but I felt it might be a relevant topic. I don't know if you guys feel the same thing or something similar.
Well, I don't know if I feel something similar, but one thing I've noticed is, so I had this thing where I lost some weight, then I gained it back, then I lost it again, then I gained it back. So this year I was like, okay, I'm going to lose the weight no matter what. So I said that I'm going to spend on a bike something like an hour, 45 minutes, because you need to exercise if you do the cardio exercise for more than an hour and a half to see the results. So just an hour is not enough. So I've done it twice so far. It's not a lot, but that was the only thing that made my scale move, because I've exercised it for months before and nothing would work. And I also met a friend who actually used to be in Olympics for cross-country skiing. And then she was a huge inspiration for me, and we were skiing together. So I'm really hoping to stick with it and not just to find the next excuse why I can't do that.
That's great. Wow, that's dedication. An hour and 45 minutes. That's hard work.
Yeah, I usually do it at lunchtime when my girl is sleeping, so it's a little bit easier.
No, well done though. It's brilliant.
Well, I need to stick with it, so that's the most important thing.
Yeah.
That's usually where I failed in the past. So I would do it for a month or two, and then if you get sick or something, then I would stop doing it, and then it's hard to come back to it. So, but hopefully by then I'll lose all the weight I need. So the most important is to keep it as a lifestyle, because what I've learned, sorry, and this is more about weight loss, is that for the first year your body is really trying hard to get back to the previous weight. So no matter what you eat, no matter how you exercise, if you stop doing what you were doing, your body will do everything to get back to the old weight. So all the efforts will be just lost. And you need to stay in that weight 6 months to a year, then your body will accept it as a new weight. And then it won't stop going back to the old weight.
Oh, that's interesting. Oh, I didn't know that. Well, that's good to know. So it really does have to become a lifestyle. It can't just be a push for a year. Yeah.
You don't have to do it. I'm sure I won't have to do it for an hour, 45 minutes, because the goal will be different. The goal wouldn't be a loss weight. The goal will be just to maintain weight. But at this point, yeah, the goal is different.
Brilliant. No, that's the next step for me as well, definitely. That was one of the truths that definitely came up and smacked me over Christmas. Is just looking after the body is so much more important. It was a massive physical cleanse. And it was very clear to me that if I had looked after my body and I was more healthy, I wouldn't have got so sick. But sometimes it's good to get the smack in the face. Getting into the routine of the exercise and really shifting the diet. Because I'm finding that since I was sick, and I think maybe partly because I can't smell and I can't taste very well, but I'm not eating the same kind of foods because I can't really taste them and the smell is most of it. And I'm not really drawn to the unhealthy foods that I might have been eating before. So that's good. Yeah, so it's little changes as well, I think, and just like you say, sticking to it and just not hiding behind the excuse of whatever it might be. And we all have plenty of them, for reasons why we don't do things or we do things. But it feels like to me that the time for self-indulgence is gone, or the time for allowing ourselves or giving ourselves allowances for things that we do or don't do is gone. It just feels very strongly in the energy to me that it's all about stark truth now, stark reality and cause and effect kind of thing. Like not looking after your body means you get sick. End of story. There's no one to blame except yourself. So yeah, interesting. It just feels very different this year. It feels like different energy, very different energy.
I remember at some point Naratima was talking about that once you take one step towards the goal, then the universe will take a few steps towards you, something like that.
Yeah.
And so it was kind of interesting that I found a friend that actually I found very motivational and something that really gave me that motivation to continue with it or to start doing that. Very interesting. Once you want something, you receive it in one way or another, whether it's just a support or something else. It's interesting to see that.
Yeah, definitely. I remember her saying that. And it's funny that with you, it's not just a friend who's interested in, fitness. It's an Olympic level person.
Yeah, I think she took like 5th place in Olympics. So yeah, she's definitely at the top and she won many games and things like that. So very inspirational.
Brilliant. Somebody who knows what they're talking about, definitely. Mm-hmm. Yeah. How about you, Danielle? Do you have any resonance or feeling of changing?
Oh, I was just thinking about, I think Aratima was talking about how the time things are going to go back and forth in terms of you're going to try something, then it's going to change, try something else, like lots of different shifting through things. So I'm just kind of watching that and just allowing things to change even in small ways. Cause like I started using the body scrub that my friend Katie gave me and I really enjoyed it because it's like I was in the shower anyway, but I got to do something that felt like real self-care to me. And then I made one of my own, which was different from the one that she made me. And then I made another one after that one ran out, which was also a little different. So it's like while I'm kind of doing the same things, there are little different things that are coming up with it, fine-tuning and tweaking. So I'm just kind of allowing to see where things go. And I think what was coming up most strongly for me recently, because I started the art classes, is that perfectionist tendencies again, because I'm like, I stopped drawing for a reason. I didn't like the critiques in class. I didn't enjoy the way that the class was run when I was in high school. So it's like a big push for me to be taking these courses because I kind of have this old story about it. I guess I just have to wait and see, what kind of feedback I can get and work on taking the feedback and work on applying it because I don't know. My school was very academic, so I feel like creative things. And then plus this is an online course. So I was like, how am I gonna, even improve from whatever feedback I get? So I don't know. It's kind of like a wait and see thing. So the strong thing that's been coming up for me since the beginning of this year is like, but it's clear, is like looking at the perfectionism and saying, okay, well, it's not a resistance to taking the course because this course isn't right for me right now. The resistance to taking the course is because I have this feeling about having taken a drawing or an art class in the past and a certain result. So the energies, I feel like, have made it much more clear to see things like that.
Are you enjoying it though? Have you done one? Is it one or two?
There's 2 classes I'm taking right now, but one is actual drawing. The other one's like a graphic design course. And this was the first week, so our assignments are due on Sunday. So I don't have anything that I've drawn that's been graded or critiqued yet. But doing the drawings themselves, it comes to when I'm trying to draw something that looks realistic. And it's like really stressful for me because I have no idea how to do it. Like I just don't have any history with techniques, and the course does try to train observational skills. So I'm just trying to be open to like apply what I learn or, practice the things that the course is going to teach. I'm just skeptical because they're 8-week courses. So I'm like, how much improvement can I expect to see?
Well, you see a lot in 8 weeks, definitely.
We'll see.
I've done courses that have been 6-8 weeks, and there's a lot of even just doing it, just the actual practice of drawing rather than thinking about it.
But we're not necessarily drawing every day, you know what I mean? So it's just like whatever assignments they give is the only thing that's required of us. And for me, working full time and also taking the other course, and then I have Wisdom Life School course on top of that, I'm like, well, we'll just see what I can get out of it. But hopefully, at least there will be things that I can take from the course and practice on my own. I keep reminding myself, though, that drawing isn't really the end game of why I signed up for these classes. It's just a class that I have to take that allows me to take the next courses in succession because I'm interested in trying my hand at animation. So sure, it would be great if I could draw some basic things so then I can push them into an animation program and go from there. But my end goal wasn't to draw realistic things. I need to remind myself to not be so hard on myself in that area because that wasn't what I set out to do to begin with.
And it's also your first week as well, give yourself a bit of credit for that. But is there some are you enjoying it, or is it just a bit stressful?
I'm glad that it's bringing things up in me. And I don't know, it's just like a weird thing to sit down and draw because when someone draws something, like everyone's going to draw it differently, even if they were all looking at the same object, which we're not. And it's just kind of like that feeling of, I don't know what everybody else's work is going to look like because we haven't submitted anything to critique for each other. And I'm not like really worried about like being the worst drawer in the class or anything, but it feels kind of like, I guess it's just bringing up old stuff because it's just an uncomfortable feeling. I think because it's more new territory for me too. So like the creative thing, it's not something I've ever really done in such a specifically artistic way.
But that's great then. You're pushing the boundaries and doing it. It's, kudos to you. It's good that it's great. And I think that kind of thing does bring all sorts of stuff up. I remember I used to have a friend. She's now a graphic recorder. And when she started off, she's always had talent, so she could always draw things. But looking at the work that she did at the beginning and then the work she did 3 years later, there's no contest. It's so much improved. It's exponentially much, much better. And now she does this work where she's, in huge conferences, they'll have like business meetings and that kind of thing. And she'll be there with like a piece of paper that's 4 meters long and 2 meters high. And she'll be drawing live in front of everyone, capturing what the meeting is about live, sometimes recorded, people filming it. And there's no way she would have thought she could do that 3 years ago, So it's just confidence does increase and the talent increases and it just, because now she's so confident doing it. They fly her around the world to do this kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. And it's amazing. I mean, she's so talented. It's really, really good. But, having been privy to the early sketches, it's like, wow, that's, she's in leaps and bounds, much better and much more confident. And it became her dream that she then fulfilled. So things start small sometimes, you know, it's kind of, she just thought, oh, I like sketching. And then the confidence grew to the point where she got a bit of work. So she gave up her day job and now she makes a living from it. And she's got savings. She's paid off all her debt. Last time I spoke to her, she was getting paid £750 a day.
Wow.
So you don't have to do it every day. And she's been to all sorts of places around the world, you know, Italy and Spain and various other places. And for weekend conferences, she gets paid, I think, triple that or quadruple that. It's definitely doable. You know, people do it. And it's all just starting small and just having that faith that it's something you want to try and something that you feel that might work. It might or might not work, but, you know, it's the desire to give it a go.
Right. And I think I talked about it on one of the podcasts that we scrapped, was that it really felt like the proper thing to do. So it's keeping myself coming back to that and reminding myself, like, I started this not from a place of what I felt like was ego. So it's like reminding myself I felt really called to do this, and also reminding myself that I didn't, from a mental point, because there was, you know, kind of converged. I had like a thought and then I was like, no, this feels really good. So my thought was more geared towards animation. It's not towards realistic drawing. So I got to get out of this perfectionist tendency of this field over here that I'm not even necessarily interested in, you know? And if I decide that I am, then I could have patience with myself and decide that I want to build those skills through whatever, you know, information I'm given and taught to in that realm. So
also, it's just a stepping stone, isn't it? I think it's like, I remember somebody saying about, was it Picasso who said once that you need to perfect the art of seeing and drawing things naturally in, you know, the way that they are before you can change it. You know, so it's like you need to know what anatomy is, say, of the body and be able to capture that before you can then kind of make eyes appear on top of heads and, you know, all that kind of stuff. So I guess, yeah, it's just one of the tools in your toolbox. Yeah, but it's great that you're doing it. I think that's fantastic. Really good. And it's a gift as well if it's bringing stuff up.
exactly. I'm like, okay, I see more and more why I was called to do this. I was like, this is going to be way more than just taking a couple classes, isn't it? You know? Yeah.
But that's good though. I mean, it feels like at the moment, the times we're in, it is all a gift because it's kind of uncovering all the crap's coming up for everyone and everything and the entire planet. And that's great because who wants to hold on to that crap? Better out than in, you know?
Right. And the teacher actually talks about how it'll increase observational skills, right? Because you're drawing what's in front of you. So it helps you to kind of like, I guess, take your perceptions off or your projections off of what you're looking at away, because you're trying to capture what's actually there. And she talked about awareness or something. And I was like, oh, this is great, because being a spiritual student, I'm like, observation and awareness, increasing awareness are great. So if I can do that, even in a visual sense, I'm sure it'll impact every other area of my life, which is something she also expressed. And I was like, okay, cool. Like, you know, we're on the same page. She gets it too. So.
Oh, brilliant. Oh, that's good. How did they assess it though? Do you have to scan it in and email it?
We take a picture, scan it, or like take it somewhere to be scanned.
Oh, that's interesting. Remote feedback as well.
I know. And I was struggling getting some of the assignments done yesterday because it didn't say which paper we were supposed to be using, because we have a drawing paper and then we have our sketchbook. And it says most assignments will be in your sketchbook, but it didn't specifically say for each assignment, like, and there's only 24 pages in the book. That's what they recommended we get. And I was like, do we use one piece of paper per sketch? Because I feel like I'm going to be blasting through this paper and it's the first week. So I did draw even without getting that answer back, but I'm going to check my messages today and see what we're actually supposed to be doing. One of the pads they have us using is an 18 by 24, which is super intimidating to me because this is a giant piece of paper. I'm like, yeah, right. I'm gonna be in like the corner drawing something like really tiny. I'm like, this giant piece of paper. How am I supposed to draw on this?
A friend of mine did a course like that, just drawing and sketching, and I don't know for how long she did it, but no, it's pretty good. I see what she's doing. I was like, wow, how can you do that? So I was pretty impressed. So you do learn quite a bit from the course. She took it in physical form, so she attended classes and then she had feedback from the teacher directly.
I think it's just confidence, because I think all of us who have that creative spark or that desire to create or make or draw or whatever it is, if we haven't done it before, it's just a question of doing it. We don't know what we're doing to start off with, but it's just practice and practice. And in my experience, it's kind of, because I've done quite a lot of art throughout my life, but never kind of professionally or anything like that, but I've just always enjoyed it. But there's always that block you hit when the mind comes in and goes, oh no, that doesn't look like what it's supposed to, or whatever it is. But I find that the best work that I've ever done has been when I've not even been thinking about it. And talking about small, because I remember I did this course in the States. I went to Boston, the Visual Arts School in Boston one summer. And we started off doing paintings, and they were kind of, A4 size, which is doable. And then we moved to doing these massive, massive ones on, I can't remember how big they were, but I think they were like 1 meter by 1.5 meters. And at first, like you say, it was really intimidating because it was like, oh my God, this is huge space that we're supposed to fill. And one of the tasks was to do a self-portrait. And that's the hardest thing to do because you'd never see yourself clearly, but we had to do them on these massive canvas. And the thing about this course that was great was I just stopped thinking. So it wasn't about criticizing myself. It was just about letting the feeling come through, And some of the end pieces of it with this huge size, one was a self-portrait, and it had to be face as well. It couldn't be kind of the whole body. So you had to do a self-portrait that was 2 meters high by 1 meter wide of your face.
Wow.
Which was kind of scary, but it came out fine. I mean, it didn't really look like me hugely, but it was kind of the fact that you lose all thought and you're just looking at it, and you're kind of looking at the planes of light, and you're looking at the shapes and the shadows and all this sort of stuff. And then there was another one that was we had to capture light, and again on one of these huge great big canvases. And I remember doing it, and it was just so absorbing because you're just basically trying to translate what you see onto the canvas, and it's just fabulous fun. It's like your arm becomes an extension of your eyes,
Right, which I look forward to. But for me, at least what I've experienced before is in trying to draw something. I mean, luckily these drawings at the beginning are very rudimentary. They're just contour drawings. We're not doing any shading or highlighting. My mind would be like, why doesn't it look like what I'm seeing? Like I'm trying to make it look that way. And it's like, I guess I just didn't understand the techniques back then or something. Cause I'm just like, I don't understand why what I'm doing isn't working. It's not making it look the way that it's supposed to. So that's where I get caught up in drawing. Yeah. It's like, I don't know what I'm doing to not make it look the way that I'm seeing it.
Yeah, I think we all do at the beginning, though. It's kind of, but that and this and what and how,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But it is good, though, having all this stuff coming up. I mean, it's kind of, sometimes the little things that you can tell yourself that you are or you're not. I remember over the 2 weeks when I was ill, because I was really grumpy, when you're feeling ill, you get really irritable with everything,
Mm-hmm.
And I was noticing a lot of judgment coming up, and I was like, oh my God, that's still in there. Shit, you kind of think, damn it. But it was good to see how grumpy and judgmental and irritable and closed-minded I was being, because it felt like that was a huge purge coming up, all this shit coming up. So it wasn't just physical feeling terrible, it was like emotional and mental and all that as well. But I feel like now I'm kind of on the other side of it. It was a really big cleanse. But yeah, all sorts of stuff, and all the thoughts and memories and things were coming up from way back that I didn't even remember that I'd done or thought or believed. So that was interesting. And I think the thing that I found with it, for myself anyway, was just to allow it, because the natural reaction sometimes can be to go, oh, no, push it away or clear it or just let's change it in some way. But I found that just allowing it and just being with it and going, okay, right now I'm being very, very cranky. I'm very, very judgmental. I'm feeling like shit, and it's all fine. And throughout it all, it was kind of, there was this knowing and understanding that it was all fine and it was all good. And strangely, there was this huge amount of joy underneath it all as well. It was like, oh, this is brilliant. Life is great and everything's fantastic, as I coughed and vomited and, But just, yeah, I guess that's the thing with stuff coming up. There's that joy because you're like, oh, thank God I'm letting go of this, or, it's coming up, get it out.
Another excuse that I normally get is, I already dealt with it. I don't need to deal with it again.
I've done
That's
that.
exactly what I was thinking when Kim was like, oh, more of that is in there. I was like, oh, yeah. I know sometimes I'll be like, but I thought I did that already. I thought I was done with that one. Nope.
Or I guess it's just more layers of it.
Exactly. Yeah.
I was definitely doing a lot of that. Yeah. And it's kind of an acceptance as well, because at times, because I was really feverish as well, when you're boiling. You kind of, everything starts melting, including your brain. It's like self-pity was trying to creep in. It's like, oh God, everyone else is having a Christmas and I'm in bed at Christmas and I'm not seeing a New Year and blah, 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 you know, all that crap that comes up. But then it got to the point where it was funny because it was like, but so what? You know, this is how you're spending Christmas. You're spending Christmas in bed. There was just an acceptance of it underneath all of that crap. But it's funny actually as well as with being sick because, you know, everyone's thought at the moment immediately is, oh, it must be COVID, or, you know, kind of thing. And it's just kind of, oh my God.
Yeah, I so frequently forget about it now until I have to go out. I'm like, oh, right, I need to bring a face covering with me because I don't think I could get into a store without one, honestly.
Right, yeah. Yeah, it's funny here because we've now gone into our third actual official lockdown here in the UK, which is insane. People are getting really funny. Like, I've always been allowed on the bus without a mask and I just walk on, you know, but the last 2 days when I went to work, the driver's been like, but where's your mask? I was like, I don't have one. But why not? Because I'm exempt. But, and I just walk on, it's fine. But people are getting really weird about it. But at the same time, in this official lockdown, hardly anyone on the streets wear everyone. People are going into shops normally, you know, the Brits are like, oh, fuck it, I'm done with this kind of thing. But it's really strict. And they're saying now that they've got police patrolling. And if you're seen on the street without a mask, you can be arrested now.
Wow. That's crazy.
It's just insane.
It's interesting because I had one situation at the shop where they wouldn't let me in. They said, well, you know, if you're exempt, you have to wait outside. We have to tell everyone in the shop so that we take precautionary measure before you can enter. And there is this old lady in the wheelchair behind me. And then they want me to leave and there's not enough space. So I was like, what are you doing? So you want this old lady to leave so I can leave first? It was like so ridiculous. Anyway, and it was a bad thing of me. I thought, well, hopefully your business won't last too long if you're treating your customers like this. And now they're closing down.
Oh, wow.
It was one of those dollar store. I know, but I don't normally wish bad things. I just thought, well, okay, I'll take my business elsewhere. And then there was another shop where they wouldn't let me in. And then I asked them to serve me outside. I was trying to shoes for cross-country skis. And I think the owner was paranoid. He had like double layers of a mask and a shield on the top. So I was like, well, can you at least serve me outside? I booked my appointment. I can't enter. Then he was bringing everything outside. And then he apologized and gave me a good discount, regular discount, but at least I got one. So recently I sent an email to our mayor saying that basically, you know, the way I've been treated by the shops is basically discrimination against my mental disability.
Brilliant.
And then I said everyone should have equal barriers to entry. So if anyone should be enter the shop, just like you have a restriction on people who cannot wear a mask, you should have the same rules applying to those who have exemptions. But I haven't heard back from him.
Yeah, I know. Be great if you do, but you may not.
Yeah. I said, you need to create policies to explain the shops what they need to do in the situations where a person cannot wear a mask for medical reasons, and you need to set up the rules to make sure that everyone is allowed into the shop. But most of the shops are like, okay, I just come in and say, hey, I can't wear a mask. And it's like, yeah, come on in, come and spend money here.
Yeah, exactly. That's the thing, they should be wanting people in because they're all...
The small businesses usually okay with that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, here in the UK, sadly, the small businesses are the ones that close, but it's really sad. But some shops are even spending money on like official COVID type warning signs or whatever you want to call it. Like there's a local supermarket just down the road from me, and they've installed this massive traffic light type system above the door. So it goes red when you have to stop moving, don't dare approach. And then green when you're allowed in. And I don't know if there's an alarm or something if somebody comes in without a mask, but there are people by the door with sanitizers. And they don't let you go in unless you sanitize your hands. And I saw this and I just walked off. But what's next? There's going to be massive, great big grills that come across the door and alarms that go off and lock you in a cage. It's just so stupid. It's so completely pointless. Yeah.
I thought they were going to start installing those kind of like UV things or whatever in front of the train doors. So when you walk onto the train, you have to walk under them. But it was my understanding that you can't use that on skin. So I was like, I don't know what they're talking about. This was a long time ago too, but like long time ago, closer to the beginning of the lockdown.
It feels like decades ago, doesn't it?
It really does. It feels like it was a while ago.
Yeah, and they're pushing the vaccine here as well. It's like, oh, look, the Queen and Prince Philip have had the vaccine now, and
Good for them.
let's kill them off. Move on.
Yeah, right. Go ahead.
Yeah.
I was saying to my dad, somewhat jokingly last night, mostly jokingly, I was like, zombie apocalypse, that's the one thing I'm not really ready for. It's like, so let's just not see anything like that from these vaccines. Although I'd probably be more successful in that than like actual war, considering I don't have a firearm or firearms training. So...
Whereas you have zombie killing experience.
All you need is a blunt object. Watch a couple movies, you'll know exactly what to do.
But it's good for you. You won't be required to get one because you're working online at home. So it's good for you.
Yeah, well, yeah, I don't know. We'll see, because I'm working in New York right now, and they're trying to push that everybody's required to get it. So
even if you're working from home.
But if that happens, I'm going back to my apartment in New Hampshire. So bye.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how that pans out. But it's like, I think Aratima was talking about how everything is coming up to the surface and everything's going to go topsy-turvy for a little while. And it certainly feels like it. I mean, it definitely feels like so much is spinning up and erupting, and so much misunderstanding and so much confusion and fear, I remember, and my brain's not really working properly at the moment, so I'm not really taking things in, but on the 6th of January, when Trump had a rally and there was, he was giving a speech and all of that, and there was the demonstrations, and I don't know huge amounts about it because I didn't really follow it in depth, but I know there was some violence and some people were injured.
Yeah, there's yeah. There are things to talk about there, kind of. Some speculations that I have that other people share with me.
No, absolutely. I mean, I know it wasn't the Trump supporters, and I know there was a lot of infiltration and all of that, but just the amount of misunderstanding around that and the amount of deception and lying. I mean, it was so obvious on that day. And kind of, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I wouldn't really call it misunderstanding. I would agree with you that it was deception, like intentional, if anything, intentional misunderstanding.
No, I mean, it's misunderstanding in people who have called themselves Trump supporters but are now very, very confused. I've noticed a lot of people seem to be questioning things, and I had quite a few messages from people going, what's going on? Is it still happening? What's going on, kind of thing.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Yeah, so it's interesting in that as well, because it kind of feels like deeper layers of things are coming up now, so everything, the energies at the moment, everything that's happening is kind of questioning core beliefs and core trust about things. And so where there might have been people that have been very vocal about supporting Trump and supporting everything that's going on, it's bringing up underlying layers of fear and doubt, which is interesting as well in itself. And I'm not judging, because I know everything's coming up for a lot of different people, but it's just interesting how with this energy at the moment, it's going right down to the foundation of everything, it feels to me, so the foundation of everything that you base beliefs, or whether it's self-beliefs or stories, whatever it might be on, the foundation is crumbling. So there's only space for truth, and holding on to the lies or holding on to the doubt or holding on to the fear has no foundation, has no basis. So that's why people feel like they're free falling, because there's nothing to stand on anymore that isn't truth. And truth isn't something to stand on, it just is, so it's there isn't that kind of building block tower of things that are piled up, if that makes sense, whether it be self-beliefs or kind of little lies you tell yourself about the kind of person you are, or bigger lies that are going on in the outer world. All of that's kind of crumbled, all of it's in free fall, which is great. I mean, it feels fantastic, and it feels very, very different. The energies are just so, so different to me, but it's going to cause a lot of chaos, because there's going to be a lot of fear pushback against it, and violence, and whether it's verbal or physical or otherwise. So yeah, it's just, yeah.
No, I agree with it. I agree with everything that you said. For people who are stuck in the mind, I think it's going to be, I don't know how they're going to navigate it, because even when I get stuck in the mind every now and then, I luckily, with the energies that are coming up now, I actually think it's really supportive to get out of the mind. But if I'm there, I can start feeling, this kind of unsettled, or like what's going on, a little bit of uncertainty, I guess. But this is good training, in my opinion, is to find that inner certainty. And I kind of feel it like like you said, there's no firm ground to stand on. So it's like when I find myself feeling like I'm trying to internally plant my foot on something, so to speak, is to remember that, okay, no, this isn't really, this is what's familiar, but this isn't really the way things work anymore. And because how quickly things are changing, it's showing me the importance of finding that true center and that true grounding, which doesn't feel as solid, but like you said, it just is. So it's that sense of okayness, but it doesn't have that like a heaviness to it, or, you know, it's not, there's not a certain amount of substantial, like physical kind of experience to it as where you feel like you're firmly planted on something, but it's more of like an okayness where that's expansive and allows for things. So it's like a shifting, at least in my experience, a shifting sense of like knowing. It's just that experiencing of, okay, no thoughts, just, all right, I'm just here and deal with what's in front of me, instead of trying to build a foundation of, okay, because this happened, this is what's going to happen next, and all of that.
Yeah, absolutely. And also the feeling of expansiveness, it's kind of like there isn't a heaviness to it, because it's like all the anchors have gone, you know, so things that are weighing us down or weighting us down have been cut. So it feels like everything's so much lighter now. And the only thing to do is to expand, because that's where we live, you know, and it's kind of like expansion without the compression, expansion without the, what's the word?
Contraction.
Contraction, thank you. Yeah, expansion without the contraction. And it feels amazing. It feels so wonderful. But it's going to be interesting to see how things play out, how that manifests generally. Because the amount of turmoil, it's like, you know, the way that you, without sounding too posh, how we as people experience things internally that are mirrors of the external. You know, it's kind of, sometimes it can be just a smaller scale or a different seeming issue, but it's the same issue. And I feel that the amount of stuff that's come up in me over the last few weeks has very much been what's been going on outside. And I keep saying inside, outside, but you know what I mean. But it's interesting, the amount of conflict, you know. So some of the stuff that I've been feeling that I know isn't me, but I'm experiencing it, has been that kind of external mirroring of holding on to something, you know, because it's like a free fall. It's been like a real free fall for everyone. And people in free fall try and hold on to something, you know, and there's nothing to hold on to anymore. So we'll see how that, you know, is it going to be holding on to each other and pushing each other down as we try and, you know, people try and clamber over each other? You know, it'll be interesting to see.
Yeah. I'm just thinking it's and it already has been a real test of faith, because like you said, people who are kind of following it, and the 6th came and went, and they're like, what's happening? Is it still happening? What's going on? And it's like, well, you know, and it's been said, it's God's plan, you know, so if you either have faith or you don't. And Trump kind of talked about weeding out people who are loyal to him and who aren't. And it's like, okay, well, they think they're loyal, they say they're loyal, but as we keep continuing down this path, you see how many people who actually aren't loyal. So I feel like it's the same thing with faith. It's like, are you truly faithful? Or are you saying you have faith? How far can you push your faith? Do you believe that the light has won, God has won, or are you going to go into fear?
Absolutely, yeah. And that's the whole thing with faith. It's based on no concreteness. You know, faith is trusting in something that you can't see, you can't hold on to, it's intangible. But it's just believing and, like you say, holding true to it. And that, yeah, it is a test of faith.
Do you believe God has you? That's how I feel. Like, do you believe that? I think it's just really overcoming fear, and like fear of death, like just not caring really what's going to happen so much. Just know that it's going to work out the way it's supposed to work out. Having that trust that it's going to be what it is.
Yeah. And having faith that the light has won, has already won, can't be shrunk down to fit some tiny little mind concept that we have, you know, because we don't know how the light's won. We can't grasp it because it's so much bigger than any concept or understanding that we have. So in some ways that is so freeing, because you just have faith that God is in charge. It's God's plan. And who are we to even try and understand or try and put words to how that works out, you know? So it's very freeing, because you just kind of go, well, I'm in your hands. My life is in your hands. I am yours. And you just surrender to it. And it brings so much peace. There's so much calm, you know, because there's no conflict of, oh, but I have to try and understand it, or I have to try and hold on to it. And if I hold on to it, then it'll make it true. It's just really, truly feeling and believing and seeing and knowing this better life, this better world that Aratima speaks of, the kind of through this weird, crazy delusion time of COVID and all the restrictions and stuff, just seeing that beautiful world and knowing it, and just not even putting, I mean, I don't know if I'm wrong in this, but just for me, I don't feel like I'm even putting concrete images to it. It's not like I will have this, or the world will look like this, or this will happen. It's more of a kind of just a sense of that freedom and that lifting up and that expansion. Because again, I don't feel like I'm the right person to go, well, this is what's going to happen, and this is what a better life looks like, kind of thing. So yes, I mean, we're in some ways very privileged to live in these amazing times of huge change, and everything that comes up, great, get rid of all that crap, and just strengthen faith and strengthen trust. That's all we can do, and laugh and be joyful underneath it. And hopefully next week not sound like I'm speaking through my nose.
When you were talking about the friends who contacted you, I just wanted to say that I had a friend from the UK. He texted me. I was like, hey, how do you feel about Trump? So I had to explain how do I feel about it. And then the company, I don't know if he's still working for it. It's funny. I mentioned to him that they're fully supporting the deep state. And then he laughed and he said, well, this company is a deep state. I was like, okay, he knows. So that was actually pretty funny. And about the phase, and maybe I'm ignorant, but I remember even yesterday in the phone call, was supposed to watch some announcement. And I'm thinking, how does it even matter? Like, if the light won, why would it? But maybe I'm ignorant. I was like, why would it even be important if there is an announcement or not? If something comes out or not? Well, something will happen at some point. So I don't know. But this is where I am, where I'm not really, maybe I should be more active, but I'm not. I feel like, if the light has won, then that's what happened. There is this, I know this is to be true, then why do I need to do anything about it? But maybe I'm not seeing something.
I've been through phases like that too, though. It's like the trust is just so great that I'm like, I don't really care about what I'm seeing or to pay any attention to it. So I'm just like, light's won. I'm just so sure of it. I'm going to hang out in this space. I don't care what any of it looks like. But then other times, it's just, I guess, being engaged in, like, knowing that, like, we are alive at this time and we're here physically experiencing whatever's going on. So to actually bear witness to what's happening historically, it's supposed to be, an exposing of truth. And that's something I'd like to see personally. I'd like to witness it. I'd like to hear it with my own ears. But whether or not it actually comes in the form of an announcement, or when it happens, or what happens,
I agree with you, but at the same time, I feel like it's being attached to a story too much. It's like, I want this to happen, and then you're waiting for it to happen, and it's not happening. And to me, that's the story itself.
Yeah, I know what you mean. I feel similar, and that there is a wanting to know what's going on historically, as you said, Danielle. But I feel that because everything that's happening has been so surrounded by opinion and perspective and story, and even people who are Trump supporters, even people who claim to be objective, are not. I've noticed this a lot in the From Dark to Light group, and so I don't participate very much anymore because there's just so much projection, so it's people, not just in that group, but generally, are saying, well, this was supposed to happen, and it's not happening. So they'll come up with a story why it didn't happen. If you can look at it all and observe it objectively and just be completely detached from it and just go, well, this happened and that happened and that happened, there's no opinion about it, great. But it's just, there's so much that is heavy and dense around people wanting to have a linear story that they can then go, aha, but I knew this, or I've seen this, or I witnessed this, or whatever it might be. And it's so heavy when you look at it and you feel it. Even some of the videos, I mean, I watch some of the videos to kind of keep informed, but I don't watch as many as I used to, because even in the videos, there's just so much opinion and there's so much heavy energy of, well, I know the truth and you don't know the truth and I'm right and you're wrong and this is what happens and then this is going to happen and then the truth is going to be coming out and then everyone who didn't believe the truth is going to be wrong and all this stuff, and it's all just bullshit. And I feel that for me, it's like, well, the truth is, the light is one and the truth is one. I want to see how that happens, but I'm trying to keep myself a little bit detached from all the heavy crap that surrounds it on both sides. It's not just the anti-Trump people, it's the Trump supporters in some ways even more so, because they huge sense and energy of self-righteousness there, of we know the truth and we're right and we're smug and we're better than you and all this kind of stuff. I'm not saying everyone is like that, but there's a lot of energy of that around. And nobody knows. I mean, I think this is the thing. Like we were saying a minute ago, God's in charge. God is working his plan. And there's a few people that may know certain aspects of it and they're playing their part. But everyone else who's trying to make history out of it, you know, and I don't mean that they're making history, because history is being made, but the ones that are adding to that by adding all of their projections and subjective opinions and all of that crap are not helping at all. I just feel anyway. And I don't know whether that's an excuse, but it just feels more true to me to kind of step back a little bit and just sort of dip in a bit here and there and just really only dip into the people that I absolutely trust. So if a writing will post something or post a video, I'll watch it, because I know that that's a very, very pure source, you know. But other people, even ones that others look up to, they don't feel true to me. It doesn't feel like, and I know you don't, not everyone can be fully true, and I'm not kind of judging them for it. But somehow there's just kind of again, I guess it's no more lies, no more excuses. It's all about, you know, it has to be about truth now. You have to follow what's true to you. And I don't want to be dragged into all of that, you know, because people are having discussions about it and arguing points, and it doesn't matter if you argue about it or you disagree with it or not. It's happening or not happening. You know, it's kind of adding those layers of density on top of it, and then throwing in, you know, threading through all the emotion that goes with that just adds weight that doesn't exist. You know, it's adding this foundation again that we were talking about earlier that doesn't exist anymore, you know. So it's kind of, it has to, I don't know, maybe that's just,
it's actually helpful, because that's how I feel, that there is a lot more story expectation. If it doesn't happen, you might feel disappointed. So why do I want to participate in the story? So I decided a while back, and I've been taking this approach for a while now, that I'm actually stepping back and I'm rarely watching anything that's happening, because there's just so much attached to it. And as you say, it just feels heavy. So I was like, I'm not participating in that. So thank you, Kim. That helps, because I keep thinking maybe I'm too ignorant.
I'll just say for me that it's different to watch something that's coming out of the president's mouth versus listening to videos that's commentary on everything that's going on. It's a very different experience for me. So I don't find that it has, I guess, as much weight to it, because I'm not putting my own personal desires of what I want him to say onto it. Or from watching it and seeing what comes up on me, I can see if there is any desires that I still have that I'm projecting out there. Because I'm like, oh, I wish this happened or something. That's good for me to know, because then I can clear it.
I guess I wasn't really talking about president speaking, because yes, I agree that's, you know, when he speaks, there is his own interpretation, right, of his words. So there's nothing on the top of it. It's mostly this whole thing that this will happen, whether this will not happen, you know, whether he'll speak or not speak or something like that. So that's the story I was talking about. Not so much him speaking directly.
Yeah, I agree. I was going to say it was nothing to do with Trump speaking directly, but it's just everything that goes on top of that. So even when he speaks, I don't read comments on things, but, you know, you can see so many millions of comments of people's opinions about it and all this sort of stuff, you know. And I've noticed as well, and I don't know if it's just me, but like on the 6th when he was speaking, I just didn't feel it was him. It wasn't, you know, it didn't feel, I don't know if it was me just not feeling his energy, but his energy didn't feel the way that it normally does when I see him speak. So maybe it was just not me not being sensitive to it. I don't know. But yeah, I might cut that bit.
Okay.
I was working at the time, so I wasn't paying a lot of attention to it. But I remember Trump saying at one point, he's like, "You're not going to see me for a while." And I was like, because we know what we know about doubles.
Yeah. Well, that was my...
So,
yeah.
And I haven't been really good about knowing like which ones are doubles and which ones aren't. But I would just always thought that, because he said it very clearly, very strongly at one of his last rallies before the 2020 election, and I was like, ooh, and it just like really stood out to me. I don't put much thought to it, but every now and then it will kick up again in my mind, and I'm like, I just wonder. Thank you for listening to our conversation. We talked about how there are no more excuses, no more hiding behind lies, big or small. We talked about how the truth is being pushed to the surface, and a little bit about sketching and other issues that we're fielding as the times are shifting and the energy is changing. If you enjoyed our conversation, please let us know. Give us a thumbs up. Leave any comments of what you might be experiencing down below. And please subscribe and hit the bell icon so you'll be notified when we post again. Thanks for listening. Talk to you soon. Bye.